Hey y'all, this old Dirt Joe from the Bill Feezzy channel. Y'all ain't gonna believe this, but that orange bastard, Donald Trump, just gave me a presidential pardon, so I'm outside. And guess who scooped an old gangster up from the penitentiary? You damn right, my folks see Bill. Y'all need to hit the link below or in the bio or description and check this audio story out about my wild adventures up in that city with a real one.
Alright, you kids get to bed, I get the storybook.
Bill Feezzy's buddy, Joe Dirt, gets a Trump pardon. Joe Dirt sat on the edge of his bunk in Ware State Prison down in the two-hotel town called Waycross, Georgia, staring at the stained concrete floor. He had been in the chain gang for 17 years. 17 super long years of horrible food, being told what to do by rude officers, and the same routine day after day. 2 life sentences meant he wasn't ever going to see the free world again, but fate had other plans for the gangster hillbilly. When a lieutenant and his counselor came for him that morning after first rotation, he thought it was another shakedown, or someone had snitched on him about one thing or another. But instead of being tossed into the hole, he was led to the warden's office. The air was thick with confusion, and the warden himself looked like he had seen a ghost. "Baker, looks like you've been granted a presidential pardon," the warden said, flipping through a file. "You're being released immediately per President Trump's orders." Joe blinked.
The hell you talking about, warden? Ain't nobody pardoning me. I got 2 elbows in this bitch, sir.
The warden looked confused, rubbing his temples. "2 elbows?" he muttered, before his lieutenant explained to him that inmates refer to an elbow as a life sentence, which caused the obese old man to chuckle before handing Joe Dirt a stack of papers detailing his immediate release from hell. President Trump indeed signed an official pardon for Joseph Baker at Ware State Prison, and even though he didn't approve of the orange fuckboy, he started liking him instantly on account of this miracle he had just performed. Joe's heart continued pounding in his chest as if he had just snorted 7 lines of the yeah. He knew better than to ask too many questions. If old Trump wanted to let him go, he sure as hell wasn't about to argue. "You can go back to your dormitory and pack up your belongings now, inmate Baker," the warden said, eyes narrowing.
No, sir. My locker box empty as a bitch. I'm Gucci. Only thing I got in that box is 2 bars of state soap, a half a tube of toothpaste, and a butt-naked suit without the season pack.
2 hours later, he was standing outside the gates of Ware State Prison with nothing but a brown paper bag filled with his pardon paperwork, the $25 check that the Department of Corrections gives every inmate that is released, and a holy Bible they handed him. He looked awkward in his prison-issued Bubba shoes that barely fit, as well as the wrinkled white button-down shirt and khaki trousers that looked like they came from the bottom of a Salvation Army thrift store shelf. The world felt too open, too fast. 17 years behind bars had turned the real world into something foreign. He watched the cars zoom past on the highway and felt his stomach tighten. Where the hell was he supposed to go? He had no family waiting for him, originally being from Tennessee, which felt like another lifetime ago. His mama had passed, his pappy had been out of the picture since he squirted him out, and any cousins he had were either dead, locked up, or living lives that had nothing to do with him. The only person he knew who might pick up the phone was his GD brother, Bill Feezzy, who had gotten out of prison back in 2022 and had made a huge name for himself on YouTube. Feezzy had gotten released after 9 years and had built a little something for himself in Douglasville in metro Atlanta. Joe Dirt wasn't sure how his old friend would feel about him calling out of the blue, but he had no other choice. Feezzy was once his bunkmate and had seen his paperwork and knew he had double life and never was getting out of the chain gang, so this call was going to be a shocker. He borrowed a phone from a passing truck driver at the rest area half a mile from the prison grounds and dialed the number he had memorized when Feezzy gave it to him 2 years ago.
"Yo, who this?"
Feezzy's voice was wary, not recognizing a strange number.
What up, C. Bill? It's your GD brother, Joe Dirt.
It was silence on the other end before Feezzy let out a deep sigh.
"Man, what up, Joe Dirt? What dorm them folks got your ass in now? Hope you still ain't in the hole from when we last spoke."
Joe chuckled, but it was dry, almost hollow.
I got a big surprise, C. Bill. Trump done let me out on a presidential pardon. I don't know what that old orange fool was thinking, but you think you can scoop me? I'm standing outside this damn rest area not too far from the prison with nowhere to go.
Another super long pause. Then Feezzy muttered, not wanting to drive damn near 6 hours to bring a man into his home, even though they were bros.
Man, this some wild-ass mess. All right, sit tight. I'll be there in a few hours.
Joe exhaled, finally letting his shoulders relax. He was free, but what came next? He had no idea. One thing was for sure. Life on the outside wasn't going to be the same as when he left it. And with a past like his, freedom might be just as dangerous as prison. As he waited, he sat on one of the wooden picnic benches outside the rest area, watching traveling Georgia peaches, getting boner after boner as they strolled by him on their way inside to relieve their bowels. His mind raced. He had heard stories of other inmates who got out after decades inside, only to get themselves locked up again in months. The outside world didn't play by prison rules, and he wasn't sure if he could even fit in anymore. Joe checked the crumpled bills in his pocket he had gotten from the kind trucker, just under $20. He could probably buy a meal at the vending machines if Feezzy took too long, but he knew he had to make this call count. He had to figure out his next move fast because the last thing he wanted was to end up right back behind those bars. Cars came and went, mostly families passing through on their way to sunny Florida on vacation. Joe was a man without a plan, set loose by mistake, carrying the weight of a past that still clung to him like a shadow. Finally, after an agonizing 7-hour wait, Joe was abruptly awakened after falling asleep on top of the picnic table. The sunny sky turned into a starry summer night.
Joe Dirt, get your ass up, folks. We gotta go.
Standing there in the flesh was his old friend C. Bill, dressed in a fresh blue warm-up sweatsuit with the word Celine across the chest. After dapping each other up, not having seen each other in over 4 years, they hopped in Feezzy's burgundy Honda Accord and made the journey up to the big city of the ATL. Several days later, Joe Dirt sat on the edge of the bed in Feezzy's spare bedroom.
There may be rumors of me breaking up with Travis, but who cares about that? Right now, y'all need to smash the like button and subscribe button for my favorite YouTuber, GK David II. His stories are so crazy. We all know they're not real, but still the best shit on YouTube. They're like mini movies.
Staring at the unfamiliar glow of an iPhone 15 screen. C. Bill had upgraded to the 16 when it came out and had his old 15 in a kitchen drawer. The world had changed in ways he wasn't ready for. Back when he first got locked up, flip phones were a luxury and the internet was something you only used at the library or if you had money for a clunky desktop. Now, everything moved at lightning speed. Social media, streaming, tap to pay, everyday life felt like something out of a science fiction movie from the 90s. Feezzy had done his best to ease him into it, but Joe felt like a caveman holding fire for the first time. He had spent nearly 2 decades in a cage, and the outside world felt like a blur. The cars were different, music didn't sound the same, and kids barely looked up from their screens. Even ordering food was weird. You didn't even have to talk to nobody. Just press a few buttons on an app and your food showed up at your door. Despite the discomfort, he embraced it day by day. Feezzy had a routine and Joe followed along, soaking in the new world around him. He learned how to navigate YouTube and spent hours watching videos on everything from financial literacy to street legends he used to know. He marveled at how rap had changed. Mumble rap, drill, auto-tune heavy melodies. It was a far cry from the era of 666 Mafia and Young Jeezy that he remembered. He didn't like it, but he respected the hustle, especially so since he was in Atlanta, where the mumbling auto-tune bullshit was invented. One night, Feezzy knocked on the door of Joe's room with a smirk.
Yo, Dirt, you ever been to Magic City?
Joe raised an eyebrow.
Man, I've been locked up for damn near 2 decades. What you think, C. Bill?
Feezzy chuckled.
Aight, get dressed. I'm gonna show you how these Georgia girls twerk something.
Joe pulled on some clothes Feezzy had bought him. Fresh jeans, a white tee, and a pair of Jordan 11s. He still wasn't used to how clothes fit now. Everything was either too tight or too flashy, but he figured he looked decent enough. When they pulled up outside of the world-famous Gentlemen's Club, Joe could already feel the energy in the air. The neon lights, the crowd, the heavy bass thumping from inside. It was like stepping into another world. If you had told him he'd be standing outside of the naughty nightclub a month ago, he would have laughed right in your face. Inside, it was even crazier. The club was packed, the air thick with blunt smoke and the scent of kitty cat. Topless women danced under flashing lights and money rained from every direction. Joe had seen movies about this club, but seeing it in real life hit different. Feezzy led him to a VIP, dapped up a few people, and ordered a bottle of champagne.
This that city, folks,
He said, handing Joe a bubbling glass.
Let's toast to the rest of your life.
Joe exhaled, looking around as he clinked glasses with C-Bill. Everything felt surreal, but for the first time since stepping outside those prison gates, he didn't feel completely lost. He took a sip of his drink, letting the moment sink in. The world had changed, but maybe, just maybe, there was still a place for him in it. 4 hours later, as the night wound down, and Joe Dirt finally got him some, after forever, they hopped in Feezzy's whip, heading back home to Douglasville. The city lights blurred past as Joe leaned back, still buzzing from the 15 seconds he lasted with his first chocolate bunny, a stripper named Lauren Brazil.
That was crazy. Ain't never seen her ass that fat on the gal before, C-Bill. I think she in love with me because she looked me in the eyes when I was giving it to her.
Feezzy chuckled, keeping his eyes on the road.
Joe Dirt, stop lying. You know damn well that girl ain't look you in your eyes. You ain't nothing but 2 inches down there.
Fuck you, C-Bill. I got the anaconda.
Just as they were cruising down Ted Turner Drive, blue and red lights flashed in the rearview mirror. Man, what now? Feezzy muttered, pulling over. Joe tensed up as a white Atlanta PD officer approached the car. License and registration, the military buzz cut wearing cop said, shining a flashlight into the car. Feezzy handed over his driver's license while Joe sat still, watching the officer closely. Then, the officer turned to Joe. You got ID on you? Joe sighed and pulled out the wallet Feezzy had given him earlier that week. The officer took it, disappeared back to the squad car, and moments later returned with a tense expression. Step out of the car, Mr. Baker, the officer ordered. Joe frowned.
For what?
There's a warrant out for your arrest. Joe's stomach dropped.
Man, that's gotta be a mistake.
The officer didn't care. Within minutes, Joe was in cuffs, shoved into the back of the squad car. Feezzy was cursing, trying to argue, but it was no use. At the station, the truth hit like a sledgehammer. There had been 2 Joseph Bakers at Ware State Prison. Trump's pardon wasn't meant for him. It was meant for the other Joseph Baker, an inmate who had been locked up for his role in the January 6th Capitol riot. The system had made a mistake, and now Joe was being dragged right back into it. Sitting in a cold holding cell, Joe clenched his fists. He had tasted freedom for just a short while, had seen what the world had become, had started to believe he could adjust, and now, just like that, it was being snatched away. I ain't going back, Joe muttered under his breath. Hell nah. Do y'all think Joe Dirt would try to pull an escape move during the transfer back down to Waycross? His ass should have got out of the country if you ask me.